Hi, I'm Alexandra Ellis of aewellness, and I'm here today to teach you how to do a proper hip hinge. A hip hinge is exactly what it sounds like. It's learning to hinge the body over from the hips rather than from the low back, where we so often want to flex, and then we have issues with low back pain. Now, because we spend so much time sitting and not on the bottom of our pelvis, but on our tailbone, this flex position is what our brain maps as good posture. Or it's the alternate where your ribs are shearing forward and you're stuck here. So the biggest key point of the hip hinge is to learn how to find spinal neutral. And points you can use to find that is the front of your rib cage. This is called the xiphoid process, the bottom of the front of your rib cage, and the front of your pelvis. This is called the pubic symphysis. Your rib cage and pelvis should be right on top of one another with your head on top of that so that you do have the natural curves of your spine and your spine's in neutral. You'll want to lock that in place, bracing your spine so that you have the normal curves. And the hip hinge, all you do is back your hips up as far as you can without changing anything in your spine. Then you'll be able to hinge yourself from the hips even more depending on the length of your hamstrings. Now, some of you might end here, and if your hamstrings are tight, your spine will start to move for you. That's not what you want. You want to learn how to move within your hamstring range of motion so that your hips back up, your spine hinges over the hips, and you go as far as the hamstrings will allow. You might be wondering, well, wait a minute, how can I use this in my everyday life? Well, the hip hinge is how you bend over to wash your face, how you brush your teeth. It's also how you can pick stuff up off the ground. Now, if you're like, but my hamstrings aren't long enough, don't worry, there's more to it. So if you were to be picking something up off the ground, you would do the hip hinge, and then your knees would bend as well. Notice that nothing has changed in my spine, nothing. Then I can pick up the object, whatever it is, and stand back up, all without ever losing the bracing of my neutral spine. So a hip hinge can be used for so many things, whether it's bending over to get water out of a water fountain, washing your face, brushing your teeth, or setting yourself up at a barbell to prepare for a lift. But learning the hip hinge and making that the regular way that you move will help to alleviate a ton of extra stress added to the lower back. If we're constantly flexing and extending at the low back and spine all day long, eventually something's got to give. Your glutes, your hamstrings, and your hips were designed for this type of movement. So might as well put them to good use, especially if you're maintaining the health of your hips, your glutes, and your hamstrings. If you want to learn more about how to maximize your mobility to live pain-free in your body, check out my website at aewellness.com and make sure you subscribe to get new videos right here.